Peace and love, y'all. This is Brother Dooley. And I mean, got the little gong joint going on in the back there. Has been a while since I did a live video for the people out there. So yeah, I'm excited to share some things that I've been working on and coming up. But give me 1 second. So I big up to my homie up in Detroit. He gave me this bullhorn, gosh, and it's made of a bullhorn for the sacred herbs. So I'm gonna take a little puff of this one here. Ooh, wee. Ooh. Woo, 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 woo. Yes, 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 y'all. To the beat, y'all. Yes, indeedy. Give thanks. Give thanks, give thanks, give thanks. All right. All right. Let's get this started. All right. Thank y'all. Once again, this is Brother Dooley here. First, before I even get started, I would like to give a shout out and thanks to Uncle Hank. Greetings, Stephanie says greetings, Stephanie. What's good? What's good? What's going on, my friend? I'd like to give a shout out to Uncle Hank Rising Son. Big up to him. He just made this headband for me. I am, it's made out of some magnets. And he's always, I call Uncle Hank the Tony Starks of in the metaphysical community, because he's always coming up with these interesting inventions, these wonderful type of jewelry and stuff to keep our vibration high. So he came up with this. Is like, dude, I want you to wear this. This is, this is gonna get your pineal gland even more activated. So I said to Uncle Hank, I was like, why don't we put a xenon light bulb under it? So I put a xenon bulb under there, and it's even activating the energy even more. So big up to you, Uncle Hank, for hooking a brother up with that. First and foremost, let's go in, because I don't have that much time. Go pick up my little ones, but I've been meaning to make a video. It's been a while, and wanted to just, share some things with the family out there. Hopefully everybody's been doing well. There's been a lot of things going on in the world, as you know. The train, with in Ohio with the chemicals spilling, and it's not only in that area. It's been in other areas, and someone hit me to a movie that talked about this train wreck way before this happened. So we're dealing with some interesting things going on here, and also the so-called weather balloons UFO thing. This is interesting times, as you know, that we're living in, folk. They're saying it's a weather balloon. Other people are saying there's other things going on, and I, I I'll let you know my opinion on this whole thing, really, for a second before I go into the more of the things I really want to talk on. Um, the Disclosure Project that was brought out by Dr. Stephen Greer, Dr. Greer, in the early 2000s. This was on the National Press Club. You had you had people, veterans and different people that were in different, that served for this so-called country here, and came forward and said, listen, we've seen things, we seen extraterrestrials, all these things that they're putting out, because these guys are on their deathbed, and they have, their families are their children are grown and everything, and they have really nothing else to lose, and they don't want to go on their deathbed not letting the public know that we are not alone. You know, we're talking about reverse engineering, crafts, and all kinds of things going on out the mouths of these people that have directly encountered extraterrestrials. Um, so there's going to be a lot of things popping off. And as one of my good friends and mentors, Baba Kalindi, he predicted 2020 to 2023, you're going to be seeing a lot of different things. But he said 2023, that's when things were really going to be showing its face. So, yeah, man. As we know, indigenous people talked about um, the star elders, different things, Kachina, all these things, the Dogon talking about the Namos, all these things have been brought forward a long time ago to let us know that we're not alone out in this universe, and some of us, our origins didn't even start here on planet Earth. So I find this is very interesting that a lot of things are coming out the bag right now in regard to some of our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters. Now, I really want to talk about the dark crystal, but before I start, I just want to let y'all know what I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of traveling, state to state, getting a lot of healing work done for the people, and I've been encountering a lot of extraterrestrial contact myself in regard to some of these psychic surgery or these psychic healings that I've been doing with people. Um, when I was in Mount Shasta, California, um, it really started to pop off a lot for me. I was working out there with an elder. Part of his family is Apache, and he this elder had some heart issues, so I was dealing with some sacred medicine, some serpent elixir for him in regard to his heart, but also I did a psychic surgery, and I remember when I was working on the elder. um, Now I know what particular extraterrestrial came to me. These would be considered your Arcturians. They're called the Arcturians, right? They're the blue skin aliens. Excuse me, I did a little rap before I got on here. These are the blue skin aliens, something that you would similar see from the movie The Avatar, but they look very different than the ones that you would see from that movie. These particular beings, it was a female that came to me during that healing, and the way they look is they're very tall. I say about 12 to 13 feet tall. Very very tall, uh, very slender, you know, in appearance. This particular female, she had a bald head, right? Very big black eyes and a very slender type face. All right. Her arms were very long, and her fingers were very very long, slender fingers. Right. Um, I remember because when I was working on him, next thing I felt a presence behind me. And I look behind me, I don't see anybody, right? Then I close my eyes, I'm going back into meditation, and I see this Arcturian being come over me and working through me to work on this elder's heart. Very powerful beings, to say the least. And that wasn't the first time I've encountered an Arcturian being before. And what's so interesting about them is that when we look at health, for instance, health healing, when we look at this, it's like elementary here. I mean, the more I'm seeing a lot of these things, I'm like, man, oh man, we're dealing with a great fall here on this planet. You know what I mean? So in regard to like our health, so-called healthcare system, which we know is geared on profit. Let's just keep it a buck, keep people coming back, for more pills or whatever. When we look at extraterrestrials and how they look at healing and their health, it's dealing with a level of vibration and frequency and sound. Um, Plenty of times I've been transported my consciousness to this place where I consider to be the only way I could explain it. It's like a universal hospital. You know, it's like a universal care place where when I'm in this trance like state, they have my fingers doing certain things. And the way they operate is purely on vibration. And when you're bringing that level of vibration and frequency to a diseased area, be it cancer, tumor, whatever, you're talking about spontaneous healings here. You're talking about these tumors shrinking before your eyes, you know? It's amazing. It's amazing. I remember when I was working with this one lady, stage 4 cancer, and I was in that state in this operating place. It was like no conscious mind of myself. I'm there, but it's like put myself aside and allow this frequency to come through. It's amazing. So to let people first and foremost know that we are not alone. All right. I mean, having experiences that I even had, it's very encouraging, you know, because even when things get and we look at the world and things could get as crazy as it could get sometimes, you can't help but have a experience, a direct experience like that and say, whoa, you know, there's something much more here going on. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've been doing a lot of that, man. Doing a lot of psychic surgeries, exorcisms. I mean, it's been getting very interesting, y'all. Our last video I talked about how I had a client that was um in Detroit, and when I was working on this particular individual, I was pulling out this negative entity that was in wrapped around actually her skull. And as I'm pulling it out, it's like this slimy type of gooey stuff that I'm, you know, it looks like I'm with my hand, I'm pulling something out of her. Now, someone that doesn't have an open third eye to see what was going on, it looks like I'm just making some movement out of her mouth. But if you had the eye to see, you would see this slimy stuff coming out. And as I'm doing this, the woman's coughing, she's gagged to pass out. It was deep. And it makes you think that again, the spirit world, the physical world, they're they're interacting with each other all the time. You know what I mean? And the more we open ourselves, the more we're able to see this phenomena, you know, even on the levels of extraterrestrials and all that. Like I had a good friend of mine, Firewater, big up to him, and we had a great conversation talking about AI and some of the things that Baba Kalindi said that's going to be happening this year. And we talked about how once these ships physically really show themselves, there's going to be an activation within human beings for our DNA to switch on automatically. Superpowers on, you know? And Fire is like, that's one reason he feels like they didn't show themselves on that level. You know, and we have to understand when we deal with extraterrestrials and things of that nature, not everyone is for your for your good. You know what I mean? It's just like different different people that have different agendas here, you know, along the lines of government and things of that nature. Um, so I find that very interesting, you know. Um, I'm thinking about what I was gonna say along those lines. But when we go beyond fourth dimension, you know, um, oh yeah, I know what I was gonna say. In regard to ships, all right. Some people, there's a lot of talk out there saying, well, A lot of these real so-called real extraterrestrials, they're not zooming around the cosmos in these tin can type of joints. All right. Now I could say yes and I could say no to that. All right. Because for those who really know about how true travel really goes about, we're talking about the macabre. The macabre is a the light vehicle that's mentioned a lot through the Hebrew system. All right. Um, Also, this light travel would be talked a lot about. Hey, somebody says greetings here. Casey, what's up? What's going on now? Peace. Um, a lot of people that know about the science of Tibetan Buddhism, there's a lot of people that talk about the rainbow body phenomena. All right. There's something called the rainbow body technique in Tibet where it's on record, right? This is on record, over 200,000 documented cases of people turning their body into light, all right, and being off of this, all right. So this is a real phenomena. So most people, most real intelligent advanced type of beings don't even need a particular UFO craft or whatever to travel through the cosmos. These particular very advanced beings travel through actually turning this avatar into something else, turning it into a light ship within itself. Okay, that's first and foremost. Um, I could say that phenomena is real. I don't want to just read about things or hearsay or whatever, but that my experience with the macabre and it activating, turning on slightly, was through a healing that was happening at this retreat with a good friend of mine who had a stroke. And when we was doing some healing work with this brother, I went in very deep with the bufo, which is toad medicine, 5-MeO DMT. And I remember the beings that were working with me were telling me, keep smoking, keep smoking. I remember the guy that had the bufo that day, he was like looking at me like he's taking more. And it got to a place where I actually seen the macabre, and it was light blue, it had this light bluish hue, and it had this sacred geometry that around me that was spinning super fast. And that activated the kundalini in my spine, went up through the top of my head, and shot up through the cosmos, through the sky, and it hit something, and that's when it started to thunder. Now, of course, the light vehicle macabre didn't turn totally on because I probably wouldn't be here talking to you today if it did. But I got a taste of it. You see? So this phenomena is real, first and foremost. Now, are there other extraterrestrials that travel maybe through more mechanical type of ships or whatever? Yes, I believe that's possible as well. And I have seen certain phenomena, what we might want to call UFO sightings, about 3 or 4 times, I could say myself. And these things look different than what you would call a light vehicle or macabre. But again, these we're talking about different levels of beings in regard to their own evolution. All right. In my opinion, the most flyest way to uh okay, somebody Carolyn says peace. Hey Carolyn, thank you. The most flyest way to go through this cosmo is, in my opinion, most advanced way is turning your own physical avatar into a light vehicle. All right. I just, I mean, you don't even gotta build a ship or reverse engineer anything at that point. At that point, you using your own body and raising the frequency to do what you need to do on that level. All right. So I just want to throw that out there. Excuse me. Again, I took a little rapé before I did this. Rapé is sacred tobacco medicine, blown in the nose to get all the phlegm and mucus out of you. It was good medicine. Um, I wanted to throw that out, and of course, I could have. I could go more into detail in some of these healings I've witnessed and been a part of these past couple of months in regard to some of the extraterrestrials that paid me a visit working with people. Um, Also, you know, one of the sessions I had was the first time I came across an elf. And this was interesting because working on this particular person, as I was taking these entities off of this particular client, the entity would come off of that person. The elf would grab it up, and he would use this humongous bow and arrow to shoot that being, that entity, that parasitic being off into the cosmos. I felt it was interesting. The way he looked was a light grayish color. He was very stocky, and he had a very slender type of face. All right. He had the build of that guy on Guardians of the Galaxy, the guy, the bald head looking guy. He had that type of built to him. But that was like really first time I came across an elf like being. Um, which brings me into the dark crystal. Okay, the dark crystal. Um, Dark Crystal came out, is one of those childhood movies that I knew it was something to it. It was something important to it. Um, the Dark Crystal came out in 1982, and there was like three movies as a youth that really stood in my mind, that had a big impact on me. One was The Dark Crystal, the other was The Never Ending Story, and there was another one, Labyrinth. That was another one that had that particular otherworldly psychedelic feel to it. Now, seeing this new version of The Dark Crystal on Netflix, I knew I was going to watch it eventually, you know. I think that one came out in 2019, so I'm pretty late to the game of watching this particular film on Netflix. Um it's called, the new one is called Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. All right? Now, why am I even talking about this film? Why? I'll tell you why. First of all, as an artist myself, a visual artist, poet, MC, all that, writer, um, I understand how powerful art can be. How much, when you have a great writer, how much you can slip in a lot of truths and really bring it to the masses to have a shift in consciousness for people. All right. First and foremost. So we can use this entertainment as a way to decode certain things about reality. All right. So looking at his Dark Crystal, and I remember when I first seen it, as a youth, it was amazing to me. It was a little scary moments too as a youth looking at this. But you had these guys called what do you call the Sketskis? Let me see. I wrote some notes on here because this has been a while since I watched that. But then I watched this whole thing. I binge watched it the whole day last until early in the morning, because it's like 10 different versions of it. Each of them are like 10 episodes, and each of them are like 50 minutes or what have you. So it's the sketskis or whatever, right? But these are the ones that are like these reptilian looking bird like beings. All right. And in the first one in 1982 was shown that they're using this crystal to siphon these particular beings on this planet, their energy. And then as I'm older looking at that, and it was horrific. It was like they would strap them in a chair, and they would have to look at the crystal, the dark crystal. And next thing you know, their life force energy is being drained right out of them. All right. And they're using the life force energy that drains out of them to add for the Skeksis or whatever their name is, the reptilian ones, to basically get high, off of them, renew themselves, energize themselves, and all that. So they're feeding off of these beings. And I said to myself, what does this sound like? Sounds like what a lot of things that you hear within the so-called elite, with these individuals kidnapping these children, torturing these children, and literally be drinking their blood, torturing them to a point where there's so much fear and energy within the blood that they're drinking this blood and getting high and supposedly reversing their aging process, a level of vampirism, vampires, and this is interesting because I'm gonna go back to all this, but it's interesting when you don't have a sense of balance within yourself, the extremes that people go to. All right. Now, in the early 2000s, I was studying Tibetan Buddhism, right? And with the Buddha would say that when a person does not have a sense of finding their Buddha nature, or finding that place of of completeness within themselves, then they are willing to go and be driven by a level of desire. All right. And that this desire will never stop. You think that you have one, that you know, fed one desire, and then next thing you know, you can't get enough. Now, what's the next new fix? All right. Um, it's kind of like that movie Squid Games, if anybody's seen it. And the main character on there, he's this old Asian man. He's saying that this Squid Game was developed for these rich people, these billionaires, trillionaires, or whatever, because they no longer enjoyed anything. They were quote unquote bored. All right. So when you have all this money at your disposal, um, you've done all the drugs you can imagine. You could have all the alcohol you could have whatever type of woman partner, whatever you want. Um, you're so much into the material that you still haven't, there's not a level of feeling, a level of satisfaction. I can't get no satisfaction. You know what I mean? And because the mystics would tell you this is not about the outward. This is about an inner process of finding your true happiness, your true contentment, you know? And this type, and you would see this theme being brought over and over again. Westworld, that's another good one that kind of talked about this, that these rich people, super rich people, are setting up these type of amusement parks or theme parks or whatever to get their kinks off. And you see how, what happens when you don't have a balanced mind, how far that can go, and the level of perversion. You know, it reminds me of even the movie Caligula, and I only could see that movie once. I like, wow, and it's talking about the fall of the Roman Empire and the level of just craziness that comes along when a person does not find their inner peace, you know? And that type of theme was brought into this Dark Crystal. All right. Um, the new one, The Age of Resistance, it's interesting because these Skeksis or whatever, these reptilian bird-like beings. I wrote down some notes on here, so let me look at this here. They're the elite ruling class. All right, they're the elite ruling class, and they pose themselves as these immortals, and thus have the rest of the population on this planet to go along with their bidding. All right. There's even a scene in this show, where this film, where one of the princes along the group, they're called they're like these elf like beings, the gelflings. She's one of the princes of the Gelfling. It's even when she learns the truth, she still couldn't. I mean, it's like that particular character still couldn't believe it, because when a person, when we're brought into a system, right, and you're taught lies since you're born, to be able to get out of that level of programming is deep. Some people, even if it's in their face, they still will reject it. And I felt that was interesting, you know? Um, Now, these Skeksis, or these reptilian beings, they weren't always like that, right? We learned from the film, for this new one, the Age of the Resistance, is picking up previous before. It's giving you the background story to the first Dark Crystal, right? So these so-called elite ruling beings are nothing but a manifestation and a personification of our collective fears. All right. We're talking about some deep shadow work here. All right. And for those that aren't familiar with the term shadow work, this is a term that's really, you know, looking at that part of ourselves that we deny, that place that's trauma, the place of the wounded one that needs to get healed. All right. So these bird-like reptilian beings, they weren't always like this. They came to this planet, which they call, the planet is called Thra, Thra, Thra. Um, and this particular planet has three suns, right? And everything was balanced on this planet, but these beings came from another planet, and they were called, before they were the Skeksis, they were once called the Urskets, and they were a basically a combination between two type of beings. They were a basically the mystics, right? So they had, you're dealing with this level of duality. It was the mystics, the light beings, and the Skeksis, which was considered the dark side of them, you know? So they were divided into two. And they were basically kicked out of wherever they were at, and they came here. So you're looking at these old themes of like the biblical Adam and Eve story of being kicked out of paradise, for instance. You know, you have these mythological stories that are really talking about a greater level of understanding through these stories here, right? So they got kicked off and they go to Thra. And basically, what happens is there is a split that they come through with the cracking of this crystal. The crystal was a life-giving crystal, right? Before it became dark crystal. All right. So I'm just trying to read some of these notes that I wrote down on here. Yeah. So again, the seven realms, or the seven clans, right? The elflings, we find out that the gelflings have seven clans, which you already know that's talking about the seven chakras. So there's a lot of different themes to this show, this movie here. You're talking about the seven clans of the gelflings, which are the inhabitants of the Thra planet. And also you talking about this level of duality that's going on between these so-called immortals. All right. Now, the Skeksis are basically your true materialists. They have no really code of honor. They live off the level of fear, and again, they feed off the life force of beings. They're very manipulative, and they will do all kind of divisive things to stay in power. All right. Now, what's so interesting about them is that you have this, do you have this mother Gaia consciousness in the film. Um, and she's like this old type of like I don't know how to describe her, like like maybe like elf type of goblin type of looking creature. And her name is Orgra, right? Orgra is basically the embodiment of Thra, or the embodiment of Mama Earth, or Mother Nature. All right. She's very, very ancient, and she's very wise, right? In the first Dark Crystal, you see her, you know, sitting looking at this construction of this type of technology to mimic the cosmos. So she's the watcher. She's the watcher of the cosmos. She's the watcher of time. All right. Um, she has one eye, which I find very interesting, which goes into a lot of the mythos around the world. The loss of eye with Haru or Horus against Set. The loss of the eye with Odin, in exchange for the drink of wisdom. So you have all these mythos and symbols going on with this goddess, this ancient goddess type character. Now, everyone fears the Skeksis, or the reptilian beings, but even the reptilians, uh, uh, pay respect. Well, not well. They still try to get disrespectful, but they know not to test this old wise Mother Earth type being. They know their place. She's ancient, and I guess in this film, she was traveling the cosmos for many many years, and she breaks out of her long meditation because she sensed there's a imbalance on this planet, and when she snaps out of it, she realized that these Skeksis or whatever have corrupted the life-giving crystal, you know, and it's so deep, man, because her character is I really related to her character a lot because she was that embodiment again of wisdom. She did not. She seen as all her creatures as her children, even the reptilian beings. You know what I mean? She was constantly even trying to school them and let them know, like, yo, you're going down the wrong path. You know, and there was even a scene in the film where they linked up with these other beings on the planet, which was these spider type beings, and they were using the little baby spiders to go attach to their ear, their head, to do some mind control stuff. Um, the one of the little baby little things try to get on her ear and say, "Hey, you know better than that. You know not to bring it over here." And she could have easily crushed it, but she's not about destruction. She's about life. She's about balance. She's about wisdom. So I found her character to be very interesting. Um, you know, there also was the tree of life there. So there was this phenomena, and you always hear about the tree of life in many different cultures and spiritual traditions. They showed that in the in the Avatar movie, with the tree of life, and all these other films that talk about this. And again, you have a character called Deet, which she's one of these uh, Golflings that live under the earth. Her and her people live under the earth, right? So she contacts the tree of life, and she has a vision of all these things to come, right? And you look at her character, right? She's considered, you have the seven clans of the Golflings, and these would be considered your lower class type of individuals. It kind of reminds me of the Indian caste system, where you have the more darker skin indigenous Indians, which they call the Dravidians, or the Dalits, or what they people call them, the untouchables. these would be considered the lower class, right? But they're coming from the underworld, from darkness into the light, into the surface world. So there's a lot of symbolism there. Again, this level of awakening, coming from um, this unconscious mind to a conscious mind. You know what I mean? Bringing whatever's that's been laid dormant to come to the surface. Um, she had the vision to see what was going to go down, um, and she literally linked up with Ryan, which is another character who basically in the beginning of the film sees one of his good friends energy being siphoned from these reptilian beings and killed. So he's the one really to start telling all his people, like, these beings aren't the ones that we think they are. They're literally feeding off of us. And of course, again, everyone being under mind control, they're like, no, that's not true. Like, you're a traitor, this, that, and the third. So it was really him, the divine masculine and feminine, Ryan and Deet, to be able to awaken the masses, the 85ers. All right. And it's a very interesting film on so many different levels, man, because it got like the first uh uh Dark Crystal movie in 82. They were showing this level of ascension that's going to happen, you know, and that happened between the Skeksis and the Mystics, and to eventually them forming and merging as one. So again, we got this all these different concepts coming from the so-called Great Fall, us coming from a higher vibration down to this 3D dimension, right? We have numerous texts talking about how we used to be light beings. We have numerous texts saying that we were more androgynous type of beings. So again, it's the split of duality, and then the split of duality going into the Skeksis and the Mystics. So it's layered. This film is layered and layered upon with symbolism, which I find was very, very interesting. And worth definitely checking out. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out. It shows how both sides are interrelated. One cannot be without the other. They show one scene in there, one Skeksis called the Hunter, and he was one of the most powerful of the reptilians, but yet his other side was the Archer, which was one of these mystics. And the Archer knew he had to that they that the Gelflings would have a hard time defeating his other half. So he basically had to kill himself to kill the hunter. And basically that's symbolic as well. You have to kill off your old self, this part of you that thinks that's you know, to understanding that you're greater and something much more. All right. Well, not this mere thing that we call human here. Well, much more than that. You know what I mean? So there was a lot to this. I mean, I think it's worth checking out the film. I definitely wanted just to just talk about it. And I haven't been on doing a live for a while because I just been doing a lot of work with people and traveling a lot. But this film had check it out. You know what I mean? Definitely check it out. And also I want to tell you about a new comic book I read, graphic novel, because those who know that I'm into the graphic novels and the comics. This one is called A Day of the Magicians by Michelangelo Lee Nevi. Um, this was a good one. It was a good one. It had many themes to it, but one of it, the main characters, his name is Drazen. And Drazen, he doesn't remember his childhood. You know, it's a lot of mystery behind his upbringing. Um, he's kidnapped at kindergarten and at school, and his only friend, which her name is Anja. Anja was his only friend, and she's seen him get taken away, and ever since he got taken away, they had an astral connection. They would literally be dreaming about each other every night. All right, now Drazen is taken to this secluded like monastery type of castle built out of this mountain that's hundreds of so many feet in the air, so you can't escape from this place, right? um what's interesting about Drazen's upbringing is that he goes through this training through these type of monks that are dealing with high level science and magic, and he's going through his training of self mastery. But one thing that these priests in them realizes that Drajan still has this connection to his friend from kindergarten. All right. And as they see each other in the astral world, their level of love is growing stronger. And the monk priest teachers, they see that as a threat. Within this training, they see it as a flaw or a weakness to have love. So what I was getting from this comic was that you could have a lot of people that might be very skilled in magic, might even have certain powers, cities, but if they haven't developed their heart chakra, if they haven't developed that level of love, then there's that level of pure logic, and you haven't seen the whole spectrum there at that point. It's like one time when I was doing this psychic surgery and with this one sister, and it became like a level of like an exorcism. I remember these beings started, and I don't even know how to describe them. They look like a crossbreed between like a dog, wolf, something. I can't, it's hard to describe, but it was this four-legged creature in the astral while I'm working on this woman and pulling stuff off of her, wanted to attack me, was about to come at me, right? And I got the impression to say, I forgive you. I don't know where it came from, but it said, I forgive you. And it was coming from a place of no attachment, um, not even an attachment to the outcome or anything like that. It was just coming from a pure place of, I forgive you. And I swear to goodness, when them beings started to come at me and I said that to them telepathically, they stopped in their tracks and they transformed into a more positive type of being. The other ones that I seen with my psychic eye, those that couldn't handle that particular vibration of forgiveness or was just too far into them, they had to dip. They had to be out. And again, that's that heart chakra type of status right there. You know, there's so many ways to deal with parasitic beings. There was times where I would eat them and transmute them. There was times where I would send them to the sun. A lot of times as I'm growing, doing this work and growing as an individual myself, I'm seeing that you could deal with them with love, pure love, man. You know, and literally transform them on that level. You know, um, so these monk type of beings, or priest type of beings that was, uh, you know, schooling or educating Drazen, they seen that connection with his school, his old schoolmate friend, as something that was uh, definitely a hindrance to their it considered his growth in their school. All right. Um, I'm gonna fast forward a little in this comic. He Drazen doesn't understand that he doesn't know who his father is, his mother, or anything, because he was taken away from both of his parents very young at this monastery type place. His father's name is Lanchester, and his father is this high magician who's very cold hearted and will do what he needs to do to get whatever he needs to get done. Um, uh, Lanchester, he doesn't. This Drazen doesn't know his father never stopped looking for him, right? So eventually, his father comes and finds him, and basically, tries to tell him that the people that he, got the monks in them, that they're his true enemy. That the school that he went up, that they killed his mother. Um, and that they were trying to escape from them because his father came from that school too, because he fell in love. Basically, it was that theme again where these particular magicians could not have love. They could not express love. Matter of fact, the assassins within this magic school or whatever, they one of their graduations was that they had to kill the most person they loved, you know, again to cut off that level of any type of emotion within themselves. It was deep. This this book this graphic novel was very interesting. Um, Long story short, Lanchester figures out a way to bring his mother, Draven's mother, back from the dead. Uses a level of high alchemy. Um, same time, uh, at the same time, sets up a scenario for his son to go to this hospital, and he literally cures this child of this deadly illness or whatever. The doctors are alarmed by what they hear in the room with the boy, and the little boy is like, he cured me with his magic, and Draven dips, but they catch him on the security camera, in the hospital, and at that moment he's now put on the pedestal like he's your next Jesus Christ or Yahshua or what have you, or Isa, and at that point, towards the end of the graphic novel, he realized that he has to erase his friend's memory as much as he loves her, but he has to go because he says that he does not want, when he dies, that he did not want a religion made out of him and to people to go into the name of war for his sake. So the comic was very, very interesting. Definitely check it out. It's called, again, for those who might have came in late, it's called Day of the Magicians by Michelangelo La Nevine. Neve, and check it out. I think you'll like it. I picked up another the Invisibles comic, and those are going out of print. And I really highly recommend people to get the Invisibles. Um, the Incal, and I always talk about the Incal, which is one of my favorite graphic novels, and the Invisibles are one of those type of comic books that have so much encoded information in these things. It's ridiculous. And these are going out of print. So if you could get your hands on the Invisibles, please do. Please do. Um, it's high science in these comics here, and the Invisibles is basically a it's a group of psychics around the world, all right, that have their own particular power and stuff that are fighting the Illuminati, all right. And again, it's going back to in it's interesting. Them fighting the Illuminati, these government officials in them, their overlords are the archons. They show this in this book. It's amazing. But again, it goes into the same thing with the dark crystal. Um, when we go into singularity consciousness, when we go into zero point, we realize that this is all one big show, you know, from all, you know. And it's like my big Bufo experience, my first Bufo experience in Staten Island was it was that the all consciousness created itself to know itself. All right. So it even created itself within these scenarios of of this so-called evil, another face of God or spirit on the flip side of a coin, and we're still looking at things from a dualistic point of view. So I get it. It's like my mom when I asked my mom a long time ago. And I asked her, I was like, "Yo, mom, what's the purpose of evil?" She's like, son, if we did not have evil, we would not understand, appreciate, or have the wisdom of understanding goodness, compassion, love, what have you. You know, somebody made a comment here. It said somebody said something about some reflection, and I agree. Definitely, it's definitely a mirror reflection here, and it's like I seen this documentary called I think it was called Born Rich. Born Rich, if you could get your hands on it. It's about this heir to the Johnson and Johnson um company, you know, he's interviewing all these super rich peers, right? I think Donald Trump's daughter is in that, a couple of other people are in that. And the film is sad in my opinion, man, because you look at this false bubble that these people are living in, and they have such a small circle. They don't, I mean, it's like the characters on Dark Crystal don't trust each other. I mean, all this, I mean, it's crazy what I was seeing on that film. And it was, you know, it was a very sad reality watching that, seeing that documentary. And there was one scene, there was this one rich kid who he said, I just want to work. I want to experience what a normal life is, right? So he tells his parents that he was going to go to the construction site to work there, you know? And his parents is like, why? You know what I mean? You could have anything you want and at any time. You don't have to work. And you know, he went to the it showed on the film how he went to the construction site, and he did the day's work, and he felt, to him, that was the most alive that he ever felt, you know. And that's interesting compared to somebody that has to work every day, hard hours every day, you know, just to make a living and stuff. But again, it's that level of balance. You know, it's the city mouse, the old story of the city mouse and country mouse, the type of thing. But, you know, we have these mirror reflections, and we see things from a dualistic point of view down here. But when you go and rise in vibration and rise into a level of ascension, then you realize the interconnectedness of things. You know, quantum physics even explains that to us. You know, in Vajrayana Mahayana Buddhism, they would have an old saying, um, emptiness is form, form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. That everything around us is connected, even the air, everything, every molecule, every proton, electron, neutron, everything is connected, you know. And even though we don't think we are, We are. It even shows that in the Dark Crystal, where they had, they would call it, in the Dark Crystal, they call it dream fasting. So the character in the Dark Crystal, when he was the character's name, Ryan, he was he witnessed the murder of his friend, and by the Skeksis, or the reptilian bird-like beings, and he was hiding, he seen it, and seen how they killed her and took her essence and to drink it for them to be youthful and invigorated and high off the killing of these beings. Now, again, the mind control that was happening with the Gelflings was that they were brought up that these were the immortals, that these Skeksis were the ones to hold order for everybody. And so they would obey everything they would say, right? And do and tell them to do, right? But the star fasting was again showing that level of that universal web, showing that they would put their hands together. The Gelflings would put their one hand. They say, okay, they put one hand here, the one guy's hand here, the other person's hands there, and they would touch each other's fingertips, and they would have a psychic connection. And at that point, they were able to see the vision of Ryan and what he's seen and the killing that happened to his friend. All right. So at that point, they could see that, okay, wow, this guy is not lying. We directly seen what was going on through his mind, you know? So we're more connected than we think, you know? And um, again, it was displayed beautifully in that film, The Dark Crystal. All right. Now, within the Invisibles, I got to go back to this real quick. The Invisibles, which is so interesting about this, is that you have some interesting characters in here. You have one character, she's from the future, right? Um, you have them on this mission to defeat the Archons before it's a wrap here on this planet. And what was interesting in this particular volume, they had one dude that was dealing with mind control. All right. He was one of the people within the Illuminati that would go into people's mind and jack your mind up. Right. What was so deep is that one of the characters, they thought they had her, but they put a false memory in their mind. These the Invisibles, they're very deep psychic professionals. You know what I mean? So they put a false memory of trauma in their mind, inserted it so that could be a ploy, or a tool that they thought these Illuminati members thought they could get them with. But yo, it's deep. I'm telling you, the things even on certain levels of techniques. The Invisibles, y'all. The Invisibles. It's a lot in this that's worth reading. You know, I'll say it again, and they're taking this out of print for you already know they're taking it out of print. You know, you definitely gotta jump on this. But yeah, I just wanted to share real quick some things. I wanted to go more with the flow with this video, but I know I have to pick up my children from school, and it's getting close to that time. So I was trying to rush through certain things, and I really didn't even have no sleep last night looking at that Dark Crystal. So I'm like a little tired here too, but you know, big up to everyone that was listening today or this evening, whatever time you're listening to this video. Also in what's the date? I think it's March 8th. The Tamarian Institute, of Detroit there, Baba Kalindi School, they're having a conference, I believe April 8th, 9th, and 10th, I believe. and this is going to be in Florida. So look out for it. We're gonna have some great speakers there. Sister Acacia, Brother Mudu, Sincere Seven, the Chief Nighthawk. The list goes down. Myself, I'm supposed to be presenting there too. So you're gonna be having some great speakers there. Check it out. Look it up on the internet or whatever. I don't have the exact website on me right now. But if you want to check it out, I'll post something about it on my page. If you want to check me out, I'm usually more on Facebook under Shaman Dooley, Duli, or uh, somebody says here I was hypnotized by your story. Okay. Oh wow. Well, I'm not a hypnosis, but yeah, P said. Well, thank you. Um, you know, usually more on Facebook. On IG, I'm on Shaman Dooley as well. So you could reach me out either there, those two places, and if you have any questions or if you want any to try any of my services, you know, come to your town, do some work. I've been linking up with my good friend Keitha or Nikki. We've been working a lot together, traveling to different states, and she's a sexologist. She's deep into tantra. She does womb activation healings, and works a lot with Bufo. Does some great work with microdosing with Bufo and having people doing staring into each other's eyes meditation, which is profound to experience something like that with another person. Um, but she's a great sister, great sister, and I've been learning so much from her, and literally also just been growing myself, man. In a lot of ways, and just from the different peers that have been around, we sharpen each other's sword. Steel sharpens steel, steel sharpens steel. So that's the beauty of this. Don't be afraid to grow. Don't for the longest time, I grew up in the Roxbury area of Boston, in the city area of Boston, and I stayed in a place of comfort for many years. Um, not willing to go to visit new places or you know, just having the same friends for many years. And I love my friends, but it's always good to meet new people and learn new things and travel. It's like that song. I forget that song. It was Talib Kweli, Mos Def, and Common on there. And I think Common said this one quote, which really I was like, whoa, he hit it right there. He said, he was talking about his friend in the rhyme. And he said basically he asked his friend how traveling the world, how that sound. He said it was hard for him to imagine because he ain't never been past downtown. I was like, oh man, that whole line was so cold. You know, um, and it's true. A lot of us sometimes we get comfort, stay in our comfort zones. But for you to make some real leaps and bounds and some growth, um, you sometimes have to be open to change and open to learn new things and also to deal with our shadow selves. Um, that's what this Dark Crystal movie was about as well. I mean, the hardest time in my life was, my mother's passing. Around the same time, my good friend and mentor Baba Kalindi passed away. And then I was having issues with my marriage and the separation at the time. So everything felt was falling all around me, my whole world. And it was the hardest time in my life because my mom was my rock. She was such a beautiful being. And I was into a real deep place of depression in that at that time in my life. And really feeling very lost, and made a lot of mistakes during that time in my life. But I learned a lot, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about the journey. It's like It's like Joseph Campbell. He's this great writer who talks a lot about mythology. I remember my father put me on to this book by him called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And they talk about in that book, they talk about the hero's journey, you know. So this mythology is being played out in real life, in real time. And each of us are our own hero on this journey of self-discovery. Um, and things go into cycles. So these things has happened before. But how are we gonna do it this go round? You know what I mean? So keep your heart open. Learn to forgive yourself and forgive others. Um, Embrace your power, you know, and educate each other, you know, and stay in a high vibration. It's important. But we can't take them steps until we're really honest with ourselves as well. You know, I tell people that I had no clue that there was kids being molested and touched in my elementary school class, including myself, in preschool. I didn't learn this until I was on a mushroom journey because sometimes the trauma or certain things, they're so traumatic that, for our own level of sanity, we sweep it under the rug. But, going through certain meditations, it allowed me to see a lot of so-called forgotten memories of trauma of things that I've gone through in my life. And looking more at these things, I was able to kind of have a better understanding of my thinking process of why I was so depressed or why I was made certain choices in my life that weren't so healthy for myself. And but all that was stemming from a place of pain, of trauma, you know. And the trauma is the real work. Is the shadow work, which when we address it and look at it and tend to it and heal it, is when we're able to step into our higher selves, and really do the real work and do the things that we hear about, such as the rainbow body, turning your body into a light vehicle and activating your cities or your natural superpowers and all these things. Because these things are in us. They're just waiting to for the right time for it to manifest. All right. So I'm gonna get going. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't hope it wasn't boring. I heard, snoozing like this motherfucker is bored that shit. But and I heard I snore. My good friend Keitha, man, I was at a spot one day. Yeah. And she's like, Dooley, man, you be snoring like a motherfucker, man. But so yeah, but somebody says here, I think that I'm supposed to be here to listen to this. Thank you for your words. I'm gonna go check out the black. Yeah, it's called the Dark Crystal. Yeah, um, yeah, check it out. Came out in '82, and again, Jim Henson made it, and somebody says they're from Poland. Oh wow, you're listening all the way from Poland, man. Check you out. Thank you for tuning in, my friend. Um, Jim Henson, who is really responsible for creations of working on Sesame Street and things like that. He decided that The Dark Crystal was going to be one of those films that he wanted to bring in, something for the children, that for them to be exposed to dealing with some of their fears. So he purposely made it dark and a little scary and stuff. And because it's never too early, even for children, to learn about how to stand in their power. So yeah, yeah. Thank y'all for tuning in once again. I appreciate y'all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever time you're listening to this. Take care and peace and love. All right. Okay, and turn this off. One love, y'all.